For these watercolors, I use Strathmore 140-pound watercolor paper. This is their 400 series. It's supposedly their best. I wouldn't recommend for beginners to even use wood pulp paper. I've been using it for years because I'm cheap, but I'm kind of getting tired of working with it. Strathmore also makes drawing paper, which is pretty decent for drawing. Canson makes pretty good drawing paper. This Bristol, Canson Bristol. Strathmore makes also alcohol marker paper that's pretty decent. Strathmore also makes acrylic paper, which for beginners is probably pretty good. Strathmore also makes a 300 series watercolor paper. I wouldn't really recommend it for watercolor. There's Canson watercolor paper, this XL. These are all wood pulp papers, 140-pound cold press. I still wouldn't recommend them for watercolor for beginners. Then I tried this Winsor Newton watercolor paper, but it's only 25% cotton. Kind of acts more like a wood pulp paper. I've used this Bao Hong. It's also known as Academy watercolor paper, also put out by Meaden. Really good stuff because it's 100% cotton. And you got Hannah Mule watercolor paper, 100% cotton. Good stuff. This is a little cheaper Art and Fly 100% cotton paper. I've had pretty good luck with it. Canson also makes 100% cotton watercolor paper that's pretty decent. Now what comes down to it, you can't beat the old Arch 100% cotton watercolor paper. So here's some irises that are around my neighborhood. You can see irises come in many different colors. They're not all just blue. In fact, one neighbor even has some brown with their yellow irises. Painting flowers is not my usual forte. But you know the saying, practice, practice, practice. You only get better at something as the more you do it. I tend to like to paint flowers more in a loose look. Here I'm going in with my first layer of paint, really watered down like a tea. Watercolorists refer to painting with consistencies of either tea, milk, or cream. With this first layer of paint, I like to put the paint down nice and wet and let it mix itself on the paper. It's kind of spontaneous that way. You never know exactly what you're going to get. Only problem with using really wet tea-like paint is you make the paper buckle. Even this 140-pound paper buckles. So after that first layer of paint dries, I go back in, add a few details, trying not to do too many details. I want to keep this loose. Here I go in and add just a light green background. I didn't do that on all those paintings, but I thought this one I'd add a little more interest with some background color. So there you have my attempt at painting an iris flower.